The message from Galactic Alliance headquarters arrived with little fanfare. Admiral Paul Jones read it twice, his face growing darker each time. He tossed the tablet onto his desk and looked out the viewport at Earth, beautiful and blue below the orbital station. "They're mocking us," he said to the empty room. Humanity had finally gained membership in the Galactic Alliance after 50 years of petitioning. The price of admission: integration into the Alliance military structure. Each new species received a vessel to command as a gesture of trust and cooperation. What humanity received was the U.S. Defiant, a Corvette-class ship so old and outdated that most Alliance races wouldn't even use it for training exercises. 3 hours later, Admiral Jones stood in the briefing room before 20 of Earth's finest naval officers. "The Alliance has graciously provided us with this opportunity," he said, displaying holographic images of the Defiant. The small ship looked like a toy compared to the massive Vraxian battleships or elegant Centauri carriers shown in comparison images. A hand went up. "Sir, that thing's barely bigger than our orbital shuttles." "Correct, Commander. The Defiant is the smallest active vessel in the Alliance fleet. It's also the oldest model still in service." Murmurs filled the room. One officer quietly said what everyone was thinking: "They're setting us up to fail." "That's enough," Jones said sharply. "The Alliance expects us to politely accept this insult, assign some junior officers, and keep the ship out of sight." He paused. "I intend to disappoint them." A woman in the back row stood up. "I volunteer to command it." "Sir." The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at Captain Kelly Wright. At 42, she'd risen through the ranks with a reputation for unorthodox thinking and refusing to accept no-win scenarios. "Captain Wright," Admiral Jones said, "you're qualified to command a dreadnought. This assignment would be beneath your capabilities." Wright smiled. "With respect, sir, that's exactly why I want it. Everyone will be watching to see how humans handle the fleet's hand-me-down. Let's show them what we can do with it." 2 weeks later, Wright stood in the docking bay of Alliance Station Epsilon, getting her first real look at the Defiant. The Corvette's hull was scarred from decades of service, its once white surface now a patchwork of repairs and discoloration. "She doesn't look like much," said a voice behind her. Wright turned to see a tall man with dark skin and keen eyes. "You must be Lieutenant Rodriguez." "Sam Rodriguez, reporting for duty," he said, saluting. "Chief engineer, though mechanic might be more accurate for this antique." "Don't let her hear you call her that," Wright said, patting the ship's hull. "She's got a lot of miles left in her." One by one, the rest of the crew arrived. Science Officer Diane Miller, fresh from the Quantum Physics Division. Weapons Officer Frank Boyd, whose targeting scores were the highest in Earth's fleet. Communications Officer Lisa Carter, who could decode transmissions other specialists couldn't even detect. Tactical Officer Greg Martinez, whose simulator battle strategies were now required study at the Academy. All volunteers, all the best Earth had to offer. "Welcome aboard the Defiant," Wright said when they'd assembled in what passed for a briefing room. The space was cramped, designed for species smaller than humans. "I won't lie to you. The other Alliance races expect us to fail. This ship is meant to be our cage, not our opportunity." She activated a display showing the Corvette's specifications, but they made one mistake. They gave us something old enough that it doesn't have all the standardized lockouts of newer vessels. Rodriguez grinned, "Which means we can modify it. Alliance regulations prohibit major modifications to standardized vessels." Wright said seriously, then smiled. "But they never defined major. And I've read every word of those regulations. Twice." "So we're going to improve the Defiant?" Miller asked. Wright nodded. "The Alliance thinks they've given us a weak, disposable ship. We're going to turn it into something they never imagined possible. Something that will make them reconsider everything they think they know about humans." She looked at each crew member in turn. "They think this is the fleet's weakest ship. Let's show them it's their worst nightmare." The Defiant's engine room was cramped, hot, and filled with equipment that Earth engineers had moved beyond decades ago. Sam Rodriguez ran his hand along an exposed power conduit and frowned. "This power distribution system is ancient," he said as Captain Wright ducked under a low-hanging pipe. "The Centauri must have designed this back when they were still figuring out space travel." Wright examined the glowing blue core that powered the ship. "Can you work with it?" Rodriguez smiled. His fingers tapped rapidly on his tablet, bringing up schematics. "The good news is that older systems have fewer safeguards. The Alliance updates their protocols every 5 years, but they only retrofit the newest ships. And the Defiant hasn't been updated in 23 years, Rodriguez finished. "They probably figured it wasn't worth the resources." Wright patted him on the shoulder. "Their mistake is our advantage. What can you do with it?" 3 decks up, Diane Miller was encountering similar outdated technology in the shield control room. The science officer had disassembled the main shield emitter and laid the parts out methodically. "Find anything interesting?" Wright asked as she entered. Miller looked up, excitement clear in her eyes. "These emitters are running at 30% below capacity. The settings are locked down by Alliance protocols, but there's nothing physically preventing them from being pushed higher." "How much higher?" Miller's smile widened. "Double, maybe triple output if we modify the coolant system." Wright crossed her arms. "Would that break any Alliance regulations?" "The regulations specify that we can't replace approved components," Miller said, choosing her words carefully. "They don't explicitly forbid optimizing existing systems to their full potential." In the weapons bay, Frank Boyd was making similar discoveries. The Defiant's modest armaments were controlled by targeting software so simplified it might as well have been designed for children. "The problem isn't the weapons themselves," he explained to Wright later that day. "It's the targeting system. It's designed to aim for the center of enemy ships. That's where the strongest shields are," Wright noted. Boyd nodded. "Exactly. But shield configurations have harmonic weaknesses, microsecond vulnerabilities during refresh cycles. With some adjustments to the targeting algorithms, we could time our shots to hit precisely when and where shields are weakest." Over the next 3 weeks, the crew worked tirelessly. The Defiant remained docked at Alliance Station Epsilon, its exterior unchanged. Inside, however, it was becoming something new. Rodriguez reconfigured the power distribution system to allow for rapid transfers between systems. Power could now be diverted instantly from shields to engines to weapons as needed. Miller's shield modifications allowed for brief periods of triple-strength protection by cycling power through the emitters in a pattern that Alliance engineers had never considered. Boyd's targeting system now identified and exploited shield harmonics with precision that larger ships couldn't match. Tactical Officer Martinez focused on the corvette's maneuverability. "The Defiant is small, which everyone sees as a weakness," he explained during a crew briefing. "But small also means fast and hard to hit, if we use it right." Communications Officer Carter discovered that the ship's outdated communications array could be modified to passively collect data from nearby vessels. "We can essentially listen in on their system diagnostics," she said. "Most ships broadcast all kinds of useful information without encryption because they assume no one is listening." The day before their scheduled departure, Wright gathered her crew in the mess hall. "Tomorrow, we join the Alliance fleet officially," she said. "The other species expect to see a second-rate ship with a crew of inexperienced humans trying to play catch-up." She smiled. "What do you say we surprise them?" Rodriguez raised his coffee mug. "To the Defiant." "The fleet's weakest ship," Miller added with a grin. "On paper," Boyd said. They all touched mugs together. Outside the viewport, Alliance ships, many times the Defiant's size, moved past, their crews unaware of what the humans had accomplished. Wright watched them with quiet satisfaction. The game was about to begin. The emergency call came just 3 days after the Defiant joined the Alliance patrol routes. Captain Wright was reviewing performance logs when Communications Officer Carter burst onto the bridge. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal from Outpost Gamma 6, she said. They're under attack by pirates. Wright straightened in her chair. Show me. The main screen displayed a small Alliance trading post near the edge of protected space. 3 ships with irregular energy signatures surrounded it. Where's the nearest Alliance response vessel? Wright asked. Martinez checked his tactical display. The Vraxian cruiser Dominance is closest, but they're still 4 hours away. And us? 20 minutes at maximum speed. Wright considered this information. Alliance protocol for a corvette like the Defiant was clear. Observe and report, but do not engage superior forces. Those 3 pirate vessels were each twice their size. Send a message to Alliance Command, Wright said. Inform them we are responding to the distress call. They'll order us to stand down, Carter warned. Wright smiled. Then send it as we enter the asteroid field. The transmission might get disrupted. Rodriguez grinned from his engineering station. Convenient. The Defiant's engines glowed brighter as the ship accelerated toward the outpost. As they approached, they could see 1 pirate vessel had already docked with the station, while the other 2 circled protectively. Boyd, what can you tell me about those ships? Wright asked. The weapons officer studied his readings. Modified Zentari cargo haulers. Heavy shields, decent weapons, but slow to maneuver. They've got us outgunned 3-1, but not outmatched, Wright said confidently. Martinez, plot an approach through the asteroid field. Let's come at them from beneath the station. The Defiant slipped between massive space rocks, its small size now an advantage. On the bridge, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, each preparing for what was to come. Pirates have spotted us, Carter reported. They're laughing. Audio coming through. A rough voice filled the bridge. A corvette. The Alliance sent a corvette. This should be fun. Wright nodded to Boyd. Let's show them how humans have fun. The Defiant burst from the asteroid field at full speed. The pirate vessels turned, weapons charging. Evasive pattern Delta, Wright ordered. Rodriguez, divert power to forward shields. Already done. The engineer replied as the Defiant twisted through space, avoiding the first barrage of enemy fire. Return fire, Boyd. Target the lead ship's port shield emitter. Boyd's modified targeting system highlighted a microscopic weakness in the pirate vessel's shields. The Defiant's modest weapons fired with precision. A small explosion bloomed on the side of the much larger ship. Direct hit, Boyd exclaimed. Their port shields are down. The pirate vessels moved to surround the Defiant, but Martinez's piloting kept the corvette 1 step ahead. The ship twirled and spun through space with agility that seemed impossible for an Alliance vessel. Their commander is hailing us, Carter said. Ignore it, Wright ordered. Boyd, target the second ship's power core. Miller, cycle the shields to pattern 3. The Defiant took a glancing hit, but Miller's modified shields held strong. The corvette's return fire struck the second pirate ship with surgical precision. Its engine sputtered and died. 2 down, Wright said calmly. 1 to go. The third pirate ship, still docked with the station, began to disconnect in a panic. They're trying to run, Martins reported. Not happening, Wright replied. Boyd, disable their engines but leave life support intact. 1 final barrage from the Defiant left all 3 pirate vessels dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. By the time the Vraxian cruiser Dominance arrived, the outpost staff were already celebrating their rescue. The pirates were secured, and the Defiant hovered nearby, appearing no worse for wear. The Vraxian commander, Captain Kervac, stared at the tiny human vessel with disbelief. Impossible, he muttered. How did a corvette defeat 3 armed raiders? The Alliance outpost commander smiled as he transmitted the battle recordings. I don't know how they did it, but I'll tell you this. I'll never look at humans the same way again. News of the Defiant's victory spread quickly through Alliance channels. What was meant to be a routine report became the most viewed recording in the fleet. The tiny human ship dancing between enemy fire, striking with impossible precision, had captured everyone's attention. 1 month after the pirate incident, Captain Wright sat in Admiral Jones' office on Earth, watching his face as he read the latest orders. "They're testing you," Jones said, looking up from his tablet. "The Alliance Council has assigned the Defiant to patrol the Kraxan Nebula." Wright raised an eyebrow. "The Smuggler Haven. The one 3 Alliance cruisers failed to secure last year." Jones nodded. "Officially, you're there to maintain visibility. Unofficially, I think certain council members want to see if your success against the pirates was luck or skill. And if we fail, they can say humans aren't ready for real responsibility," Wright concluded. "Exactly." Jones set down his tablet. "Be careful out there, Captain. Not everyone in the Alliance is happy about humans showing them up." Back on the Defiant, Wright shared the news with her crew. In the month since their first combat, they had continued refining their modifications. Rodriguez had improved the power distribution system further. Boyd had added new targeting algorithms, but it was Martinez who had developed something truly new. "I call it the Ghost Protocol," the tactical officer explained, showing Wright the simulations. "By adjusting our engine output and shield harmonics, we can appear as space debris on most standard scanners." "You're saying we can be invisible?" Wright asked. "Not invisible," Martinez clarified. "Just overlooked. Most ships filter out readings from objects below a certain size. We're small enough that with these modifications, they'll ignore us as background noise." Wright smiled. "Perfect for the Kraxan Nebula." As they prepared for departure, Communications Officer Carter approached the captain privately. "Ma'am, I've been monitoring Alliance communications as you ordered. The Vraxians are particularly interested in our ship." "Expected," Wright replied. "They're the military powerhouse of the Alliance. They wouldn't like being shown up." Carter looked uncomfortable. "It's more than that. They've assigned a spy vessel to shadow us into the nebula. They want to know how we defeated those raiders." Wright considered this news. "Let them watch. We'll give them something to think about." The Kraxan Nebula was a swirling mass of gases and stellar debris on the edge of Alliance space. Its composition interfered with sensors and communications, making it perfect for smugglers and other criminals. The Defiant approached slowly, its small size already an advantage in the cluttered space. "Activate Ghost Protocol," Wright ordered once they entered the nebula's outer boundary. The ship's systems hummed differently as Martinez's modifications took effect. On the view screen, they could see the faint outline of the Vraxian spy vessel following at a distance. "They've lost us," Carter reported with a smile. "Their communications indicate they're confused about our disappearance." For 3 days, the Defiant moved deeper into the nebula, appearing as nothing more than space debris to the criminals hiding there. Science Officer Miller mapped smuggler routes while Boyd identified hidden bases. When they found the main smuggler hub, a massive hidden station that previous Alliance ships had never even detected, Wright didn't immediately report it. "We're not just going to find it," she told her crew. "We're going to clean it out." Using Martinez's Ghost Protocol, the Defiant slipped past the smugglers' sensor nets. They planted tracking devices on cargo ships, mapped defense systems, and even boarded the station briefly while disguised as smugglers themselves. On the 4th day, Wright finally contacted Alliance Command. She transmitted complete schematics of the smuggler base, defense positions, ship schedules, and command structures. Everything needed for a perfect raid. The Alliance Council was stunned. The human corvette had accomplished in 4 days what their best intelligence ships couldn't do in years. "How did you manage this?" the Centauri Council representative asked during the debriefing. Wright smiled. "We just looked at the problem differently. Sometimes being small is an advantage, if you know how to use it." As the Defiant departed the nebula, the Vraxian spy ship was still searching for them, unaware that the little human vessel had already completed its mission and slipped away. The Defiant's success in the Kraxan Nebula changed things. Alliance Command could no longer ignore the small human vessel's achievements. What they had intended as a gesture of minimal inclusion had become something else entirely. Admiral Jones forwarded Wright the new orders with a personal note: "Be careful what you wish for." Joint military exercises, Wright read aloud to her gathered officers. The Defiant will participate in Alliance battle simulations alongside vessels from all member species. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. "They want to see our tricks up close. Especially the Vraxians," Carter added. "Their intelligence vessels have been trying to scan our systems for weeks." Wright nodded. "This isn't just an exercise. It's an inspection. They want to know how we're doing what we're doing." The exercises were scheduled near Zenith Prime, the Vraxian home system. The humans would be playing on their turf, by their rules. When the Defiant arrived, they found themselves surrounded by the pride of the Alliance fleet. Massive Vraxian battleships, elegant Centauri carriers, and dozens of other vessels from various member species. The Defiant, still scared and dull compared to the gleaming ships around it, looked even smaller than usual. Commander Kolthar of the Vraxian flagship Dominion requested a meeting with Captain Wright before the exercises began. His massive form filled the screen when they connected. "Captain Wright," he rumbled, "your vessel has caused quite a stir in Alliance circles." Wright kept her face neutral. "We're just doing our duty, Commander." "Of course." The Vraxian's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. "I look forward to seeing how your unconventional methods hold up in controlled conditions." The exercises began the next day. Simple drills at first: formation flying, target practice, and rescue scenarios. The Defiant performed well, but revealed nothing special. Wright had ordered her crew to use only standard Alliance protocols for these basic tests. On the third day came the combat simulations. Ships fired low-power energy beams that sensors registered as hits. Vessels that took too many hits were considered destroyed and had to withdraw. "The Defiant will join Blue Team," announced the exercise coordinator, Commander Kolthar, "and the Dominion will lead Red Team." Wright studied the simulation parameters. Blue Team was outnumbered and outgunned. The scenario seemed designed to force their small vessel to withdraw early. "They've arranged a trap for us," Martinez observed. "Then let's surprise them," Wright replied. "Activate Ghost Protocol, but only at 70%. I want them to know something's happening, but not exactly what." The simulation began. Red Team's vessels moved in standard Vraxian attack formation. Powerful, methodical, and predictable. The Defiant held back as Blue Team engaged, watching the patterns. Then Kolthar made his move. The Dominion suddenly changed course, breaking formation and cutting directly toward the Defiant. Two other Vraxian ships followed, creating a perfect crossfire. "They're targeting us specifically," Carter said. Wright smiled. "Martinez, full Ghost Protocol. Boyd, target the Dominion's command sensors only." The Defiant seemed to flicker on Red Team's sensors. When Kolthar's ships fired, their beams passed through empty space. The corvette reappeared behind the Dominion, firing precision shots at its sensor array. The simulation registered direct hits. The Vraxian flagship's targeting systems went offline. "How did they?" Kolthar began, but before he could finish, the Defiant vanished again. For the next 10 minutes, the human ship danced between Vraxian vessels, appearing and disappearing, landing perfect shots on critical systems. By the time the simulation ended, Red Team had lost 5 ships. The Defiant hadn't taken a single hit. Afterward, Kolthar demanded an investigation. "The humans are using illegal technology," he insisted to Alliance officials. "No corvette can move like that or target with such precision." A team of Alliance inspectors boarded the Defiant. They spent hours examining every system, every modification. Rodriguez and Miller explained each change in careful detail, showing how they had worked within Alliance guidelines. "We haven't broken any rules," Wright told the lead inspector. "We've just interpreted them differently." The inspector, a Centauri engineer, seemed more fascinated than suspicious. "You've reimagined systems that have been standardized for centuries," she said. "It's impressive." When the inspectors left, Wright knew this was only the beginning. The Vraxians wouldn't accept being outmaneuvered by humans. The real challenge was still to come. 2 days after the military exercises ended, emergency alarms blared across Alliance communication channels. The Harvester Collective, a machine race that had been dormant for decades, had suddenly attacked the Proxima sector. The Alliance Council quickly assembled a response fleet. Despite Commander Kolfar's objections, the Defiant was included. Their success against the smugglers and in the exercises had earned them a place, even if some still didn't trust human methods. The Harvesters, Science Officer Miller explained during the mission briefing. Living machines that consume other technology to grow. They've been quiet for so long that many thought they were extinct. Why attack now? Boyd asked. Unknown, Wright replied. But we're being assigned to a Vraxian battle group under Commander Kolfar's command. Rodriguez groaned. The same Kolfar who tried to trap us in the exercises. The very same, Wright confirmed. We'll need to watch our backs as well as our fronts. The journey to Proxima took 3 days. Alliance ships gathered at the edge of the sector, preparing for battle. The Defiant was positioned near the rear of the formation, far from where the real fighting would take place. They're keeping us out of the way, Martinez observed. For now, Wright agreed. Stay alert. Battle plans rarely survive first contact. When the Alliance fleet engaged the Harvesters, the true scope of the threat became clear. The machine ships were larger and more numerous than intelligence had suggested. Their strange, organic-looking vessels absorbed Alliance weapons fire and adapted their defenses in real time. From their position, the Defiant's crew watched as the Alliance front line buckled under the Harvester assault. Vraxian battleships fired massive energy weapons, but the Harvesters kept coming. Captain, Carter called out, I'm picking up strange transmissions from the Harvester fleet. They're targeting specific command ships. Wright leaned forward. Which ones? The Vraxian flagship Dominion is their primary target. They're focusing their attack pattern. On the main screen, they watched as Harvester vessels swarmed toward Kolfar's ship. The Vraxian commander ordered his support vessels to form a defensive barrier. He's exposing his flank, Martins noted. The center of our line will collapse if... Before he could finish, Kolfar's battle group abruptly changed course, pulling away from their assigned position. A massive gap opened in the Alliance formation. He's abandoning his post, Boyd said in disbelief. Captain, Carter reported, the Harvesters are moving through the gap. They're going to encircle our forces. Wright stood, and we're directly in their path now. The crew looked to their captain. They were one small corvette against a fleet of Harvester ships. We should retreat, Martinez suggested. Follow Kolfar's group. Wright shook her head. If we don't hold this position, half the Alliance fleet will be cut off and destroyed. She turned to Rodriguez. Is Protocol Omega ready? The engineer's eyes widened. Yes, but we've never tested it in actual combat. It's highly experimental. So is everything else we've done, Wright replied. Initialize it. Now. Rodriguez nodded and entered a complex sequence into his console. Protocol Omega active in 3, 2, 1. The Defiant shuddered as hidden systems came online. Systems that they had kept secret even from Alliance inspectors. The hull began to glow with a soft blue light. All power to forward shields. Wright ordered. Move us into the gap. The corvette accelerated toward the oncoming Harvester vessels. The enemy ships fired, their energy weapons striking the Defiant's shields. Instead of dissipating, the energy seemed to flow across the hull, absorbed rather than deflected. Shield capacity increasing, Miller reported with excitement. It's working. We're converting their attacks into power. Boyd, target the lead Harvester ship, Wright commanded. Full power to main weapons. The Defiant's modest weapons array glowed brilliantly as it discharged a beam of energy far more powerful than a corvette should have been capable of producing. The beam cut through the Harvester ship, splitting it in half. How Boyd began. Reverse engineered from Harvester debris. Miller explained quickly. "Their technology absorbs and repurposes energy. We adapted it to our systems." The Defiant moved forward, drawing fire from the Harvester fleet. Each attack only made the small ship stronger. One by one, enemy vessels fell before the corvette that had once been called the weakest in the fleet. Across Alliance channels, crews watched in disbelief as the tiny human ship held the line alone against the Harvester assault. 3 weeks after the battle with the Harvesters, Captain Wright stood in the Grand Hall of the Alliance Council. The circular room was filled with representatives from every member species. Some looked at her with respect, others with suspicion. Admiral Jones stood beside her, pride evident in his stance. The Defiant's actions had been broadcast across Alliance space. Everyone had seen the small corvette standing against the Harvester fleet, absorbing their weapons' fire and turning it back against them. "This emergency session will come to order," announced the council leader, a tall Zentari. "We are here to discuss the actions of the human vessel Defiant and its unusual modifications." Commander Kolthar stepped forward, his massive Vraxian form towering over the humans. "These humans have created a weapon of mass destruction disguised as a corvette. They have hidden illegal technology and endangered the Alliance with their recklessness." Murmurs filled the chamber. Wright kept her face neutral, though her hands tightened into fists at her sides. "The Defiant's modifications were approved by Alliance inspectors," Admiral Jones countered. "Not all of them," Kolthar growled. "They concealed their most dangerous systems." The council leader raised a hand for silence. "Captain Wright, how do you respond to these accusations?" Wright stepped forward. "The Defiant's core systems were all built using Alliance-approved components. Yes, we pushed them beyond standard parameters. Yes, we interpreted regulations creatively. But every modification served a single purpose: to make an outdated vessel combat effective." "And Protocol Omega?" the council leader asked. "The energy absorption technology." Wright looked directly at Kolthar. "Developed from studying Harvester debris. The same debris that Alliance scientists have had access to for decades. We didn't break any rules. We simply saw possibilities where others saw limitations." Science Officer Miller activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed detailed schematics of all the Defiant's modifications. "Everything we did can be replicated on any Alliance vessel," Miller explained. "We're not asking for special treatment. We're offering to share our innovations." The representatives studied the schematics with growing interest. The Zentari delegates in particular leaned forward, their eyes widening at what they saw. "This is remarkable engineering," said one Zentari scientist. "You've redefined systems that have been standardized for centuries." Kolthar slammed his fist on the podium. "The point remains, they hid their true capabilities and acted without authorization during battle. A battle you abandoned," Admiral Jones reminded him sharply. "The Defiant held position when your ships retreated. The records are clear on that point." Silence fell over the chamber. Kolthar's mandibles clicked in anger, but he had no response. After hours of debate, the council reached its decision. The leader stepped forward with the announcement. "The actions of the Defiant, while unorthodox, saved countless lives and demonstrated exceptional initiative. Rather than censure, we propose a new classification of vessels, human pattern ships, designed to harness the adaptive thinking that has proven so effective." Wright couldn't hide her smile as the leader continued. "Captain Wright and her crew will oversee the implementation of their modifications across selected Alliance vessels. Furthermore, we are commissioning a new fleet of corvettes based on the Defiant's specifications." 6 months later, Wright stood on the observation deck of Alliance headquarters, watching as dozens of new corvettes prepared for their maiden voyage. Each bore the distinctive modifications her crew had pioneered. Rodriguez, Miller, Boyd, Carter, and Martinez stood beside her, their uniforms now bearing the insignia of instructors. "The Wright Doctrine," Rodriguez said, reading from his tablet. "That's what they're calling our approach to ship design now." Wright smiled. "Not bad for the fleet's weakest ship." On a nearby console, Carter noticed an incoming transmission. "Captain, you might want to see this. Our long-range sensors just intercepted a harvester communication." The message was simple but significant. Avoid human vessels at all costs. Admiral Jones joined them on the deck, looking out at the new fleet with satisfaction. "You know what the Vraxians are calling these ships. Nightmare machines. Seems fitting." Wright nodded, watching as the corvettes moved into formation. What had begun as an insult, assigning humans the smallest, weakest vessel in the fleet, had transformed the Alliance forever. The Defiant had shown the galaxy what humans could do with limited resources and unlimited ingenuity. "Never underestimate humans," Wright said quietly, "especially when you think you've put us at a disadvantage."